Got no place to
What's up,
go,
brother?
but there. I was singing a song, Sean. I was gonna start with the little
Oh,
lyrics.
oh, that's on me.
Um,
That's on me, dude. That's on me. Can you hear me?
what's on you? Yeah,
My,
I could hear you. Can you hear me?
my bad internet connection, I think.
Uh, where are you?
I'm in Flagstaff.
Oh, you look like you're in like a Motel 6.
I'm at the Little America Hotel in Flagstaff.
No.
Yeah, this is full circle. When I first moved here, I stayed here for a week, and now I'm here for a week, and I'm sort of leaving for good. You know,
Oh, how do you feel?
it's a lot of different feelings. Um, a lot of confirmation that this place was really not right for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm back and I go, what was I doing here for 2 years?
Hmm.
And I'm not like down on myself about it. I'm actually quite happy that it's like confirmation. It's also when I moved back to Canada, to Montreal, I was like, oh my God, why did I ever leave this place?
Right.
So
What?
sometimes you
What?
have to
What?
leave.
Why Flagstaff? What brought you there?
I wanted to ski, bike, and climb, and there's all that here. And I wanted more of
Yeah.
like an outdoor cabin in the woods experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just need like an urban center. I'm like a city boy.
Yeah. I'm totally a city boy. Maybe you needed to have that experience to know. You
Oh,
know?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, the dream was to always like build a cabin in the woods with a partner and have like little
No,
kids
dude. That's
kids
not.
running around with chickens
No,
and
dude. That
yeah,
sounds like a horror movie.
yeah,
Fuck
but
that.
some people need
That's
that.
a
Some people
weekend. That's not a
so,
life, man.
some people love that.
I mean, I sure. I mean, I could see the idea of that. I could see how that can be a beautiful weekend. But as a life, are you kidding me? That means that no coffee shops, no motorcycles, no the skyscrapers and the just that inner city vibe. Like none of that. But just
Small
man,
towns have coffee shops and you can ride your motorcycle.
yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. I
Well, it doesn't do it for you. But you know there's a lot of people in the world that live not in cities,
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are some of our listeners, you know.
Yeah, no.
So
Um,
so I just want to say I respect people's decisions to live in more rural areas.
sure. I think it's important, and maybe this is also the lesson and reminder is it's your environment's crucial to wellness, to you. It's like we're fish, meaning if you are a saltwater fish, you can't get thrown into an aquarium, and if you're a freshwater fish, you're going to die in the ocean. And so I think a lot of us, our scales fade, and especially over time, when we're not in an environment that is honest to us, and also sometimes we are in an environment that's honest to us, but we outgrow that. So maybe something like Flagstaff was the destination in that short chapter of your life, and now going back, you're like, dude, I could never live here, and that's truth, you know?
Yeah, it's great. I picked up my dog, so I hadn't seen my dog in 6 months,
Yeah.
and so that was cool. And I picked up my truck,
Mm.
and I still have a storage unit here. So when I head to LA, like hopefully LA, welcomes me with open arms and it fits. And I want to thank you, man. I got so many things to say.
Hey, real quick, where was your dog? Where were your dogs for 6 months?
So my dog was at my friend Beth's house. He was like on a ranch
Oh,
with like
okay.
chickens and horses and
Yeah,
five other
yeah.
dogs and humans and
I just don't want people to think that you had your dogs in your M5 with parked in the garage with the windows cracked for 6 months.
so I only have one dog, but the my truck was in a barn, the M5's in a storage unit, and Roger was on a farm.
Wow.
I posted on Instagram something about how I left Roger in Arizona for 6 months, and this woman said that I am a terrible human,
Yeah.
that I don't deserve a dog, and that I need to go back to school before I give any advice to anybody else.
Oh wow, she had to throw in the go back to school at the end, huh?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like animal stuff, and then oh, by the way, you suck as a coach. What the
And so I
hell?
just replied, LOL.
Yeah.
That's my favorite reply these days, is just LOL, you know?
I'm assuming she's thinking about you not being there emotionally for the dog, not so much that the dog is is not taken care of, like food and shelter, probably.
Well, it's all projections. People are
Yeah,
just projecting their shit onto other people, even if it's
sure.
positive stuff. Like even all of the positive feedback that we get individually and together, they're all projections, right? And so is
Yeah,
the negative stuff.
yeah.
And so I don't have to take all that stuff on.
No, grain of salt, man. Because if you did, you would drown. I mean, not just us, anyone on social media. You know.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to back up, John.
Hey, we got
How
green. We're wearing green today. Wow, we match.
I mean, first of all, how is your heart? That's what I want to know.
Oh, that's a question that,
Therapists love to ask.
well, no man has asked me.
Oh,
How's your heart?
yeah.
I love that.
It's pretty new age.
Uh, my heart is full. What I was trying to sing in the opening, which will hopefully cut out because I have a teji moksuri, which means the voice of a pig in Korean. There's a song by Counting Crows, "Holiday in Spain," and
Okay.
it reminds me of this weekend.
Do you want to
When
sing just the opening?
No, just there's a lyric that says, "Got no place to go, but there's a girl waiting for me down in Mexico." I listened to it a lot when I was single, and it's just about escape, getting away, and walking into um, postcards. And so this weekend was the second time in my life where I can honestly say it felt like I walked into a postcard. I'm not just saying that. I was looking around. I mean, I said this in my speech. I was looking around. I was like, dude, this is God, the breeze and the weather and the ocean and the friends. It seemed like a dream. It seemed surreal, and I'm here. It just, yeah, it was very magical. Thank you for attending. I'm
I mean,
glad you were a part of that.
for people who don't know, John got married this weekend in Mexico, in Cabo.
Yes.
And I was insanely honored to have been
Mm,
invited.
yeah.
Like I know it's not like the length of time, it's about the depth of a relationship, but I was like like the wild card at your wedding in terms of like how long we'd known each other.
Let me try to think. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of people I had a lot of history with. I don't measure a relationship based on history and time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I
Yeah.
measure relationships based on quality, um, the what it means to me today, and you're a big part of both me and Vanessa's, friend group in life. So it was great.
I mean, yeah, like I said, deeply honored. I mean, people are
Yeah.
like, like, how long have you known John? I'm like, oh, I met him in April.
I met him on the plane on the way here.
But I've known Vanessa longer. I've known
Yeah.
Vanessa, I invited her on my podcast like 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
there's some history there, but I'm insanely honored to have been there. And it was a magical weekend as a guest. And so I can only imagine what it felt like for you.
Yeah. It was great, man. Um, less about the kind of whole pressure of marriage, more about celebration of love, not just between two people, but of our friends and family. The tapestry, the quilt, you know, and the chances of all of us being in one room again is probably slim to none, and so that's what makes it magical to me.
Well, you and Vanessa are locked in. You decided to have a kid together.
Yeah,
I feel like, like it's a little backwards. Most people get married, then they have the kids. And so you already
right.
have the commitment piece.
Yeah, once you have a kid, depending on, depending on, like, um, because a lot of people have kids young and they still bounce.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't say everyone, but yeah, I mean, I'm 51, she's 40, so um, we made a promise to each other, and that promise wasn't that we'll be together forever, because I think that's loaded. The promise that we made to each other is that no matter what happens, we'll always be Logan's parents. Like, I'm
Yeah.
never gonna leave.
Yeah.
I,
I heard
I
that in the vows.
at the end, I tagged it on at the very last minute that our nation is fatherless, and one thing that I will promise you today, Logan, is that you will never be.
Yeah, I think I might have cried there. I cried in
Yeah,
a couple moments. You cried quite a bit.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Dude, I never expect to cry, and things just fucking hit, and then I couldn't speak because I was like, oh my god. And then once so here's the thing with men, which I love about men, and not that women aren't like this, when you see when a man sees another man cry, and if you care about that man, it's like dominoes because in the corner of my eye, I saw my brother started crying, and then her brother. There's something about a man just I think, is it because we don't see a lot of that in this world, and so for a man to choke up and cry, it hits us, man. I think it hits us different than, I could be wrong, than women seeing other women cry. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I was definitely moved by the fact that you were moved. I mean, what you were saying was beautiful, but that was personal to you. But seeing someone that I care about, a man that I care about, crying, emoting, definitely touched me.
Well, when I see other men cry that I care about, instantly I get emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? That happened to me recently with my buddy. I cried on a video call, and then he teared up, and then he just said, "Oh wow, man, I really feel super honored, super touched that you shared that with me."
I hugged my friend Sam, and we have we went through the whole divorce. We rebirthed together, broke in K-Town, and as I hugged him, I started to feel him kind of shake. And I could tell he was crying. I don't know why, but he was emotional. And him crying, like he started crying like a baby, made me just lose it. And so we're both sitting there holding each other, shaking and crying. And I think it's just because we never really experienced that with men, man. For men to really show themselves like that takes so much courage in our world, So.
Yeah. Well, what is just a practical note here. When I'm in the room or talking to someone and they get emotional, sometimes the tendency is for them to just like let the moment pass, and then they just pretend like it didn't happen.
Oh yeah, because you're uncomfortable with them being emotional. Yeah.
And so what I do is I'll let them sort of try to escape that moment, and then I'll go, "Hey, what came up for you there?"
Mm.
And then they have to go back and be like, "Oh, it's because, whatever the story is, my dad never saw me cry, or
Right.
or I was just thinking about how I'll be alone forever, or whatever." And then it sort of humanizes it, and it sort of punctuates that moment so that we can get a deeper understanding about what came up for them, because we could tell ourselves stories about why someone else is crying.
Right.
It's a lot more interesting to find out exactly what came up for them.
When I was married the first time, I also cried. And listen, we were young, but a guy came up to me. He started making fun of me because I lost it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's funny is like now at 51, I can't imagine any of my friends making fun of me but maybe it's an age thing. I don't know, but that's the difference.
I've had a similar experience. I have a friend who I cried at Burning Man for someone made me feel bad, and I started crying in the commissary where people eat, and he looked at me and he's like, "Dude, you can't cry here," and it just like I just didn't feel safe or connected to ever show him my emotions again.
How did you respond to that when he said that?
Fuck, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Like I was so overwhelmed with emotions, the primary emotion that made me cry, that I think I just brush it off or something. But it became a point of contention. Like I brought it up several times, like as a joke, but then also kind of seriously.
And what was his response?
Well, he apologized, and now he's in touch with his emotions more, and he's the type of person who will cry more readily.
Yeah.
And then I could say, "Hey, dude, you shouldn't be crying right here. It's not appropriate."
Someone telling you that you should not show that emotion is a direct reflection of their discomfort.
Sure.
What
are other people thinking? They're seeing you crying with me here, like,
right.
Yeah. Dude, amazing wedding. I still can't. I'm like it's like I'm like feeling low after all the high of the wedding.
Yes, it felt like a brushstroke. It just felt like I think part of events, any kind of social event, is who's in the room. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like you could be on Lake Como, you could be in the most exotic, amazing, but if you're with shitty people or people who pretend, it's not. You know what I'm saying? But you could also be in detention with amazing people, hence the Breakfast Club, and it could be a life-changing experience. 80s references all day, Shaun.
I was
And
going to say the Breakfast Club when you mentioned being in detention.
yeah, you're like, John, you're in detention. Are you not still in high school? But I think with the magic of this was we were in a different country, drinking margaritas, eating fish tacos, but then everyone there, all the people, just good people, on the same path, easy, no drama. And I think that's what made it really cool,
Dude, A-list.
A-list, yeah. And no
A-listers.
one was there for like other intentions. They just wanted to have a good time. No one was there to find their husband or wife. No one was there to, they were just there with no expectations to have a good time. And that's kind of when magic happens, I think.
Yeah, and I met so many people who live in LA
Mm,
who like set me up, dialed me in, told me where to live, are going to hook me up, come have dinner with me, like I'll show you around, I'll introduce you
yeah,
to people. Like it really changed my comfort level around moving to LA.
nice.
Like I was very nervous before showing up, and then had a call with a buddy who invited me to stay with him in Marina Del Rey. So now I have a place to land, and now I have a ton of connections. Like
Oh, wow.
it's like night and day.
LA is one of those places where if you don't have your people, it's lonely. People don't like it.
Yeah.
If you have your group of friends, LA's a great canvas, man, because there's so much to do here,
I'm pumped. I'm like
Yeah.
honestly pumped.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Also, it was cool to hang out with the bald guys.
Oh yeah, there were many bald. I love it.
I didn't
There were
feel
many bald
alone.
guys. You're right.
I didn't feel alone. There was like
Yeah,
3-4 solid bald dudes.
that's
and
awesome.
we got a photo of all of us together. That was like part of the bald crew.
That's awesome. Love it, man. Just to see the testicles in the audience.
Four testicles.
All bald guys, all sexy, attractive men. Yeah, love it.
Very sexy.
Yeah,
very hot.
Yeah, and I haven't seen you in person bald, and when I saw you, like there was no double take. It was just, it looked great. There was no like, oh, I remember when you had hair, and there's a huge difference. No, it was like, dude, I don't even think men even noticed. I think it just looks really good on you.
Yeah, and I've been noticing that like women are still attracted to me.
Yeah, I'm sure. A few at the wedding. I'm sure.
A few at the wedding. At the wedding. Yeah. I saw like a TikTok or like a video online of sort of man on the street, talking to drunk people, asking them questions like out and about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was, what ages like a fine wine? And the woman said, a bald man's cock.
What? What? Oh, so if you have hair, your cock is not aging. It's but if you're bald, your cock is aging.
It's just
wine.
aging. It's aging well. Like I think because they have to try harder, or like I don't know.
That's
I don't know.
Very strange. I don't get.
They didn't go
comment.
into the reason, but I really like the bald man's cock.
Okay. Guess I'm shaving my head.
Cool. So your heart is full.
My heart is full. And also, man, there's nothing like going away for a while and then coming home and sleeping in your own bed. Even if your away is like, four seasons or something amazing, that's great too. But there's nothing like coming home and sleeping in your own bed, that comfort.
I'm really happy for you. And I'm a little worried that I will not have my own bed for the next month. It's funny you mentioned the bed because I had to change rooms. You know how I'm like, oh, good enough. Things are good enough, right?
Yeah.
The first room that I had was not good enough. It was in full sunlight and it was like 75 degrees in the room by like 10 a.m. And the AC was not making a dent.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this good enough? No, this is not good enough. So I switched rooms. And then the second room had crazy divots in the mattress. And I was like, dude, how many people's bodies have been cradled by this scooped out section of the mattress? And I was like, I can't do this. I can't be cradled where like thousands.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, I'm going to switch to the other side. And that was also concave. And so I had to sleep in the middle of the hump,
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to call. And they came and flipped the mattress and they made a huge difference.
That's all they did is flip the mattress? That's
Well, they were
hilarious.
like, we could change rooms again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or we could flip the
Flip
mattress.
the
And I go, can
mattress.
you flip it and rotate it? And they said
Mm,
yes. And it
nice.
made a massive difference.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that like sometimes it's not good enough.
I love it, man. I love it. I love that. Yeah, because a lot of people they'll just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna push through it" or whatever. It's um. You're talking about in Mexico
Mm-mm.
or now.
This is here in Flagstaff.
Yeah,
I wasn't
I love
happy.
it. Yeah, and I think there's a difference between that or like being so picky where um I don't know how to explain it. But like the temperature of your iced tea isn't cold enough, right? Or something like that at a restaurant, which is very different than what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think sleeping, like, what is it going to make a huge difference?
Yeah.
And I slept really well last night.
Yeah, dude, I would file that under self-care for sure.
We can do better.
For yourself. For ourselves, we can do better for ourselves. Give
We
ourselves
can,
permission to
we
have
can do
better.
better for ourselves.
Yeah.
Dude, you want to just jump into a question right away? Because
Yeah,
this feels
let's do
like,
it.
oh my God. I'm okay. This is a hard one. You ready?
Yeah. I didn't say that's what she said, Sean. I did not
Hi,
say.
Francesca, 37 from Fort Lauderdale. Absolutely love you too. I watch it on YouTube. The facial expressions, the quirks are just everything. Thank you for this service to the world. My question is, what does we can do better mean in the context of politics and the election right now as men? I am volunteering with a campaign in Florida to end our abortion ban and protect reproductive rights. And I felt some anger towards an abandonment from men in my life who aren't doing more. So I would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you again. Team John Shaun all the way.
I got some goosebumps because what a sweet compliment and I don't know. I like you. I'm just someone who just is in his garage, creating, and so you don't a lot of times see where things land or how people are moved. And once in a while, when we get something like that, or at least for me, it just reminds me why I started this in the first place. And it gives me a little bit of validation.
Yeah. I mean, side note, the feedback this last week has been very positive, and people
Mm.
saying they really appreciate the candor that you and I have, and they feel like they're getting into a window into men's relationships that they don't have access to.
Nice, and I love that she's watching it on YouTube, which is great.
It's all about the facial expressions.
Yes. So if you're listening and you want more, watch on YouTube.
Well, what about the question of how can we do better
Yeah.
as men in this
Political
time?
landscape.
This is a fucked up time.
It is. I mean, for some, a victory. For others, a loss of hope. But that's every election. Um, I think wherever you fall, um, I think you really have to ask yourself how you want this to affect you. You could easily drop into a lower frequency, meaning be reactive. By lower frequency, hate, anger, frustration, anything that constricts your shoulders, and that's definitely not contributing to the world. That's creating more divide. Or ask yourself how you can live higher. Ask yourself what you can contribute if things didn't fall your way for this election. Like for me, it's not how I would have voted. I'm not going to stay in a lower frequency and allow it to have power over me. I'm going to continue to contribute to the world in what I feel that I can do. So it doesn't have power over me.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, this woman is feeling very abandoned by men who didn't come out and vote, who didn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
canvass or volunteer or sort of care at all.
Yeah. And I get it. It makes sense. I understand how she feels.
I mean, I didn't do much. I voted from Canada. I faxed my fucking ballot in.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to win. I was sorely mistaken. And I feel like I didn't really show up other than to cast my vote.
I mean, what more could you have done? You mean like participate in like rallies and
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
campaigns and stuff?
Yeah, I could have used my social media for good. I could have
Yeah.
and I don't use my platform politically at all.
You know what? Either do I, and sometimes I feel guilty about it. Sometimes I'll get it. Listen, it doesn't matter what the issue is. You're going to get pushback no matter what. And then if you don't have an opinion on purpose, then you'll get pushback as well. So it's
Sure.
like, and it's like you have to make that decision. But sometimes I feel guilty because I don't. I'm not a political guy. I don't think that's where my gift is, or I don't think I know enough. I kind of feel um, dumb in that area, and of course that means, well, you should educate yourself more. But I'm also busy doing other things where I feel like I can make a dent, and
Yeah.
so I don't know. It's not about like you should just do everything. I think it's like do what feels honest to you, so you create the biggest dent. And if politics isn't your thing, it's not my thing. It's never been my thing. I feel insecure about it. So I don't. It's something that I don't really talk about on my platform a lot, And I also don't want the drama of that. And I feel guilty because then it makes me feel like, oh, you don't have a spine,
Yeah.
These are big issues. You should be talking about it. And some issues I will, of course, But overall, I kind of stay away from politics and religion.
I do the same thing, and
Yeah.
I want to push back because like just because we don't know that much, it does affect our lives, right? In the lives of Vanessa and Logan and all the women that we know. But I feel the same way. I was watching a Dave Chappelle clip a long time ago about 9/11 and how some reporter had asked Ja Rule what he thought of 9/11. And Dave Chappelle is saying, why the fuck are we asking Ja Rule what he thinks about 9/11? We should be talking to people who know the political implications of 9/11, not just because Ja Rule is a celebrity. Right. And so like people asking us, what do we think about Gaza? What do we think about this? It's like, yeah, we have a platform and we do operate from a place of privilege, right? Of relative safety and security. And so we should be able to speak out about that stuff without any sort of like repercussions. And at the same time, like I'm not someone to talk about politics because, like you, like I'm not really well versed in them, and I'm much better to talk about emotions and heart and relationships and dating, and that's where my zone of genius is, and that is helpful for the world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think if you do have a platform, you have a responsibility to talk about, the war or politics or religion or whatever. And if you don't, then you're being irresponsible. I get some of that because I have guilt from that. But at the end of the day, listen, it's your platform, and you can talk about what you want. And if and if you're not getting that from this platform, hopefully you'll get it from somewhere else. There's also so much noise in the world. I feel like I have to pick what my issue is and just double down on that. So, part of our movement for this podcast, it's not a political podcast. We started this because as I know you have a problem with middle-aged, but as a little bit older
guys, you know what? I'm coming to terms with it.
Okay,
it's okay.
Good. As I want to say middle-aged because I'm proud of that. I feel like we fucking earned some tree rings and we have some life experience. That's why I don't want to just say two men. It just sounds too generic. So as two middle-aged men who have both been on journeys, have gone somewhere and come back, we created this podcast because we're like, even in this podcast, we're talking about crying, right? We just want to, by example, just be honest, right? And so that's what this is about. And that's where Shaun and I feel like we can make some kind of dent. If you and I start talking about politics, fuck, man, I would feel like I'd be doing a disservice.
I mean, it'd be hilarious how misinformed.
People would think we're clowns, probably.
Yeah, well, we are clowns. Here's what I will say. How can
men talk about alding over trash cans?
Yeah, how can men be better, right? Like, what can you actually do as a man in this political climate? Is support your friends, support your gay, queer, female friends. Like, be there for them, ask them how they're doing, take them to their appointments. Like, there are things that we can do. We can be present to them when things are hard. Right, because they probably feel more alone than and they feel and they might feel abandoned by men in their life.
Sure.
So don't be one of those men.
God, that's great. I love that. It also checks me because I don't feel like I have been doing those things, starting within my own home, starting with a partner. Um, yeah, it's a great reminder, Shaun. Um, as men, I think now more than ever, we need to make people feel safe. Men have not been making people feel safe. If you pull back and just look at history in general, right?
Well, it's like 98% of all rape and domestic violence is caused by men.
Well, that's physical safety. Yeah, physical, emotional safety, but just in general, uh, not every man, but just in general, men in general have not been making people feel safe. I mean, also like just the fact that we live in a fatherless nation. That's one of the things that I really have been trying to um, talk about a lot. Is that either dad's not home emotionally or physically, or all that. And working in nonprofit, I felt the result of that just directly, and so I got to fire my belly for that. But even whether it's at home or collectively, men have not been. Just look at all the stuff that's happening in the world, from all the like the Diddy thing, and I think that's something that I could definitely think about and ask myself, how can I make uh, people in my life feel more safe?
And what does that look like?
Well, privately with my partner, my daughter, or also friends, like at the wedding, buddy's gay, people like that. Um, First, asking them what they need from me, and how I can be supportive, understanding, empathetic, compassionate, non-judgmental, and also a lot of the ways that men show up that I still have this knee jerk, this locker room, this. This and we always check each other, like retiring things, right? How much of that is my bringing to the day to day?
Yeah, I like that. And also, that reminds me that, like most men, most boys growing up were not nurtured emotionally,
No.
right? If we're told to toughen up, like my buddy who
Yeah.
made fun of me for crying, like,
Right.
so that creates a closed off man.
Yeah. It men are holding shields. Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of effort. We're doing the work and we're still not there yet. So it takes a lot of effort to sit with your emotions. How can you be safe for someone else if you're not really safe and open to yourself?
Yeah.
Right. So men have to do the work of like dropping the shield, getting vulnerable with people that they feel okay opening up to, so that they can be better to other people.
hmm What do you say to people? Because there's this other conversation happening where people are saying that men are too soft or becoming too soft, and a lot of that is coming from other men, of course.
Well,
But
it's coming from women too,
yeah, like
right?
we're becoming too soft because like we've swung too much the other way, the pendulum.
I mean, the pendulum always swings until it finds
Yeah.
balance. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
always swinging to a certain degree. I don't know that as a whole, men have gone soft.
No,
I
I don't
don't think
feel
we
that.
need to worry about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think us getting softer is a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
Even if some men end up going too soft, right? If you just look
Yeah.
at violence against women, we need to be softer.
We need to be softer because we have been so hard, So yeah, we need to be softer. And even if we overcorrect that maybe that's what's needed right now in the
I
world.
think it's okay. I think on the whole, we're not soft enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I hear this from women. Oh, he's too soft, right? Like, I want an alpha male. I want a guy I can depend on. I mean, this is coming from people who are probably like trad wives, you know?
Mm.
Um, and so soften up, yeah, but also like, if you don't want a soft guy, then don't go for a soft guy.
Also, it's not it's not just soft. I mean, you could have a spine
Yeah.
and also be soft. And soft doesn't mean that you're either really hard or those aren't the only two choices, hard or soft.
You can have balance inside of you as well. And you can have,
Yeah.
I hate to say polarity, right?
You could have a stance and a spine and fight for things you believe in, but also be kind and cry at weddings and compliment, hug other men. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I think we balance.
We're trying. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do.
I think we do well. You know what?
Yeah.
This is a great moment to say we should do an episode on the masculine, feminine polarity, because it's not something I enjoy. It's something I kind of push back against, but I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
And so I want people to leave us a voicemail about the questions about the male, female, masculine, feminine polarity. Also, we need more questions. We're like low on questions. So leave us a voicemail, 657-549-1001. Do not text us. Leave us a voicemail about anything sexual, relationship, intimacy, emotions,
dating.
but also dating, masculine, feminine polarity. The voicemail line is open.
Love it.
Cool. Okay. I think we should just go to the next question because it's connected.
Yeah.
I made them connected today. This one has a different flavor to it.
Hello, men. Reaching out as the U.S. has just went backwards over 100 years with the election. It makes me terrified as a woman about even the thought of having sex anymore, because he is going after our rights to choose when to have kids with our contraceptives, including condoms. How can we as women feel comfortable having sex with men who are not fixed? And how can men help us women with this safety feeling? This is something that is terrifying, and for the next 4 years could seriously impact both men and women, because our sexual health will not be met. Our sexual wellness will be massively affected. How can we do better for this?
You know, it's something that I think many men don't think about and should. I always love flipping it, right? So if I have a question, I flip it. So the flipping here would be, men, imagine if you were in a position where you didn't have full control over your body, and that if you had a sexual experience, there may be consequences to you, right? So like, how would that feel? And so her fear is valid. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%.
And so not only is it valid, but then what do you do? You know, I think for me, so I had a vasectomy, and I think things like that, where men feel like it's women's job to whether it's birth control, whatever it is, like the put the responsibility on women. I think that needs to change, because I don't think men have done much as far as taking responsibility of, if I have sex with this person, because it's not, they have less at stake these days.
Yeah, 100%. I had a sexual encounter, and when I asked her, we were fooling around, and I asked her if she wanted penetration, she looked at me sort of like she was like, she wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, do you have a condom? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, not of course. There's a lot of guys who just don't have condoms, who will ask to have sex without using a condom. And I was like kind of shocked. Like, how could you even suggest having sex without a condom if you're not in a monogamous relationship, or like you don't know the history of their contraception or what they're doing, or the partner? Like, that's just like foreign to me.
I think for many people, because it hasn't come home, they're saying they're good with it. But when shit comes home, if it's your daughter, if it's your, you know what I'm talking about? Your best friend, other people who have been impacted by unsafety, or men being irresponsible sexually, a sexual assault, all this stuff. Once it comes home, shit gets real, and for many men, because it hasn't come home and it's out there, they're not taking responsibility, I think.
Yeah, I guess if I had gotten like 4 women pregnant and I was I had 4 child support
Sure.
bills, I
Sure.
might be more conscientious about using a condom.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
But the
course.
reason I don't is because I've always used a condom,
Yeah.
right? Like my mom drilled it into my head at a really young age to use condoms. She actually told me recently that condoms used to just like appear. She went to Costco and she'd buy like a big box of condoms
Yeah.
and they were just there. I don't actually remember this, but she said that that's what happened. And then my friends would take some too.
I mean, one of the biggest things that in the last year or two that has that I've been trying to work through and that I've been struggling with is 2 words: possession and permission. When it comes to with women, even us talking many episodes ago about like, oh, if I was to kiss someone, I would just move in and kiss, and you were like,
Yeah.
no, you should, even things like that kind of like, because they're subtle. I haven't taken a step back and reviewed or examined that because we live in a different time, and so I'm doing that more now. I still need to work on all that, man. I'm still, just being a little bit older, used to grabbing, expecting, not asking, in my own relationship. I do a lot less of that now, but just being aware of that more,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think some pragmatic answers to this question, like obviously this woman is feeling a lot of emotions and is very scared, and I think with reason. One thing that I've done in the past is to discuss with the person I'm going to have sex with, like, what do we do if there's an unplanned pregnancy? And you get some answers. Like the woman's like, oh, I would 100% keep it. And you're like, oh, okay. Wow. I was not expecting that. Because usually that's a question that happens after you find out that you're pregnant. So why not have the question before?
Mm-hmm.
If we have an unplanned pregnancy, how do you want to go about it? Like, what do you want to do? Right? And if someone says, oh, I'm going to get an abortion, and if that lines up with what you also want, then that's like a green light. Right? So if this woman says, if I accidentally get pregnant after having sex with you, how are you going to support me? And they're like, oh, I would 100% not help you get an abortion. I 100% believe in, all children should be born or whatever. All pregnancies should come to term. Then you would know, like, oh, maybe this isn't someone I should have sex with as much as I want to. They're not aligned with my desires. Right? So I think that's one thing that we can do. This is a conversation that most people will not have before having sex with someone.
There's also a lot of women who are not getting medical help, because of this issue. You know what I'm saying? Certain states.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, so that makes them feel unsafe. Period.
Yeah.
And so of course they're going to think twice before even being intimate, and it's such a
100%.
It's such a shitty feeling. Yeah, like the world is unsafe.
If you ask a guy like, hey, if we get pregnant, will you support me? Will you help me? And they'll be like, yeah, 100%. I'll drive you to California. I'll pay for the flight. I'll go with you. I'll do all this stuff. Then that's someone who's aligned. I mean, I don't know how many guys are willing to do that, but if they are, they're good guys.
Yeah.
They're like willing to support their person, whether it's a one night stand or not. Like there is a responsibility there if somebody gets pregnant, because we're part of the equation. They can't get pregnant without us.
I think men, myself included, need to really feel in your bones what it would feel like if you don't have full control over your body, and how terrifying that may be, how powerless you may feel. Just to understand what that could even feel like. I don't think we've ever in history had that feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And women have. And so here it comes again. That's why she's saying that, it's a snap back to 100 years ago. Just putting yourself in that position. And then so you could be empathetic to that. And then also taking that into consideration when you are dating or meeting someone or building a relationship, that is the world we live in, and that impacts them.
Yeah.
And just to consider that, I think that we have a responsibility to do that. That's going to make her feel more safe. And I think women need to be a lot more picky on who they are intimate with, and I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like know the guy,
Yeah. Yeah, not to sex shame anybody who likes having one night stands or casual encounters.
No.
Like, that's fine too.
And also, I gotta say, like with role playing and stuff, because look, some of that kink stuff turns me on, like the submissive, dominant stuff like that. But that's consensual. That's fantasy. That's after the discussion that we're gonna play around. That is not crossing one's boundaries or degrading or being forceful, or nothing like that.
Yeah, so I think every sexual encounter with a new person requires sexual health conversation about the last time you were tested, what your methods for contraception are, and then also what would happen if there was an unwanted pregnancy. Number one. Number two, as a woman, like you could still get, this person is scared that they're going to come after contraception, which might happen, but I'm not too worried about that. But what you can do is buy a shit ton of condoms on Amazon. You could have condoms. I think they usually expire like 3-4 years. So have condoms. You can get an IUD, which is usually good for anywhere between 2 and like 7 years. So there are things that you can do to make sure that you are protected, regardless of what happens in the future.
What can we do? What can men do besides have condoms in our pockets? What else can we do?
Have the conversation.
What do you think? What do you think about if? What do you think about getting your tubes tied? Which sounds extreme for a lot of men.
Yeah, vasectomy. Sure. I mean, I think the issue there is it's if you do want to have kids in the future, it's not reversible.
No, it is. I hear it is. I just don't know what the percentage is or how, but I hear it is because I've said that.
Sorry, it is, but it's not foolproof. It's not guaranteed to come back.
Yeah.
So I think that's the risk, but it's also pretty low invasive. It's not a very invasive procedure.
No, dude, 15 minutes. I mean, listen, it is terrifying, but it's okay because women go through stuff too. So, I just know that it's one of those things that, and I get, I'm not saying to do it when you're just dating someone, but if you're in a relationship, and you've had the conversation and you want to take some responsibility, it's a very minor procedure that no one does. Like, I don't know anyone who's done it except me, around me, and all the men that have thought about it because maybe they don't want kids. They're so like, oh, I'm scared, and oh yeah, it hurts. It's like, okay, well, so,
Yeah, I mean, if I knew I didn't want to have kids, I would 100% get a vasectomy.
Yeah, I think it's a responsibility. Yeah, then it takes the pressure off the woman.
Yeah, and off yourself as well. But I'm not sure. I don't want kids, and so I'm not willing to go get a vasectomy right now.
I get that, but I mean, such a low percentage of men actually do that, the vasectomy, until they're much older, and I just feel like that's something that we just don't do, and it's a simple process.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I absolutely do not want an unplanned pregnancy. That I do know.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to use condoms.
Yeah.
And be like very diligent. No, like just the tip. No, like let's fuck and then before I come, I pull out.
None of that stuff. Right.
No pull out method. I'm going to tell myself I had a partner where that's what we did. We used the pull out method for 3 years.
Yeah.
And she, thank God, did not get pregnant because she didn't want to get pregnant, well, actually, I think I would have liked her. I would have liked to have kids with her. The dream of living in the woods with a woman and kids and chickens was with her. And when we broke up, I moved to Arizona to do it on my own, minus the kids and the partner. And it was a lot. It was a lot.
I've had chickens, 2 chickens. They shit everywhere. It's it's not worth the juice. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
Fresh eggs, though?
A couple fresh eggs a day. So much shit in my backyard. I had to hose down the backyard. It wasn't, and they were gorgeous little chickens, and we had this whole dream. We have chickens and fresh eggs. Anyway, men, what you're talking about is exactly the thing. Is when you are being intimate, there's a point where men start to try to convince the other person of doing something that that the other person may not be comfortable with, but they're in the heat of the moment and it's okay. Like this whole like persuading, right? And so what you're saying is that the way that you're taking responsibility is you draw hard lines, like always use a condom. No, like the whole just a tip thing, right? This like negotiation because it feels better, or come on, or that stuff men need to stop.
Yeah,
because that's where we can be taking advantage of people and taking their voice for our pleasure.
Yeah, and let's be
which
clear,
I've been guilty of for sure.
Sex without a condom feels much better.
Yeah, or even pressuring someone to have sex before they're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we agree? Sex without a condom feels better.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's like almost unanimous.
Yeah.
Even women can some women can tell a difference. Not all of them.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to use a condom, then instead of convincing the woman that it's okay, go get your tubes tied, or go do something. Go find something else that or talk about something that's instead of trying to convince someone that you're just going to.
And just to be clear, getting your tubes tied doesn't mean that you can't pass on a sexually transmitted infection. You can't.
Right.
Those are two completely different things. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing is I want everyone to take a deep breath, because it can be really easy to catastrophize what is going to happen in the United States and around the world with Trump as president, right? Climate change, gutting the government, contraception, immigration, like all that shit.
Yeah.
It could be really easy to just go into doomsday scenario. Like they're coming after all of our rights, and they might. We don't know how it's going to play out. So take a deep breath, right? Like in this moment, it's probably okay right now. And it's not helpful. Yes, planning is good, but it's not helpful to catastrophize. And that like we're going to hell in a handbasket and that life is over as we know it. And
well, that's the lower frequency I was talking about. That's the living in panic, fear. And now people are just reacting and also taking hostages and people around you. And that panic is contagious. And I don't think that's going to help anything. I wish I had dual citizenship like you did.
I mean, I might be moving back to Canada sooner rather than later. But I also want to say that if you feel an overwhelming sense of responsibility to fix everything, you cannot. And it's not helpful. Right? Like do what you can, but it's not any single person's job to fix what is going to happen. Yes, it takes a movement. Yes, it takes a lot of people, but it's not any one person's job.
Yeah.
It's like not using plastic straws to fix climate change. Like, no, that's not what's going to move the needle.
I think if I could leave the listener with one thing, a realistic thing is, I think right now, it doesn't matter how you voted, men need to make women feel more safe. Just that sentence. And how you do it is on you. Women right now do not feel safe in this world, period. And that's it, man. That's a problem. And there's going to be more divide and disconnect. And so the way that you want to take responsibility is on you. But that's women feeling safe.
You can also ask your female friends or your partner, how can I make you feel safe?
Yeah.
Or safer? Yeah. What do you need to feel safer? And see if that's anything that you can do.
Women, probably minorities. I mean, other populations as well.
Yeah,
but
queer
just,
folks.
Folks. But just in general, I'm just saying women because we're on this topic about bodies and all that. Yeah. Well,
we did good.
So it went heavy, and that's okay. We go to different places.
I mean, we've got a few minutes. Should we tackle something else, or should we just?
It's up to you.
Call it a day. Well, I'm kind of curious. This is a totally like taking a left turn here. And actually, I think if I would love more questions about money, like money in a relationship. How do you deal with money? What's your relationship like? So 657-549-1001. John, what's your relationship to money like?
Oh, I mean, Shaun, this is, I feel like you're Starting a new topic for a new podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll tackle it next time.
I also don't. I think if we do something light because we don't want to end heavy, it's doing the heavy a disservice. You know what I'm saying? I almost feel like we gotta leave it with a punctuation and let it be that. I think it hits harder than now, like changing the subject. The money stuff is also a very important topical thing, and money is actually one of the biggest fights in relationships. So it is
Right.
important. But that's such a big conversation.
Okay, wait, I love this. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
saying like let's not cheapen what we just talked about and let's leave
it. Let's sit with this, you know.
Let's sit with how we can help our friends, how we could be allies.
Yeah. Also, I love that Shaun and I respectfully check each other and we say what's honest to us, right? Instead of just going with it because we don't want to, disrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we also don't have to always agree.
I will say thank you for letting me try on your Rolex this weekend. It was a
that goes into the money conversation.
It was a corrective experience for me.
Yeah, and feeling guilt about buying one and all. Anyway, my brother gave me that watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a sea dweller.
Most likely it's fake. Anyway,
it's nice. It's heavy though.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Please use the number. Any questions? Any comments? Also, criticism. We think we can do better by taking criticism as much as the compliments, for sure.
Well, make it constructive.
Don't just say we're idiots because that's
because I'm sensitive. I don't know how you're sensitive, right? But not as much as me.
Not as far as with listeners. I'm not as much in the trenches as you, but I am definitely sensitive. I mean, if people in my circle or whatever had things to say about me, even if it's like, "Hey, your hair looks funny," it can ruin my day.
You know what the problem is, John?
What?
You're too soft.
Oh, I got a spine. I'm trying to be in the middle somewhere.
Hey, John, I love you. Lots.
Love you, man. Thanks for coming to the love celebration. And
you mean a lot to me, and it was so great to meet your friends and to be part of that circle.
Yeah, good people. Also very excited about your new chapter in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't the MIG at your wedding.
The MIG? What's that?
The most inappropriate guest.
Oh, no. That was me. I was the MIG at my wedding.
I don't think that's true, but that's okay.
Thank you for listening. Be well. Yeah.
All right. Have a beautiful week.